valuation of physical assets held within a self-managed super fund is a key obligation for the trustees of the fund. But the messaging around when and how this should be done can be quite confusing. I'm joined today by Superfund Property Valuations Director William Spark, a qualified independent valuer, and we're going to take a look at the current requirements for valuations and what trustees should be doing. Welcome, William.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for joining us today. Now, one of the things that trustees will be aware of is that valuations aren't a new requirement for them, but recently they've taken on some more importance. Can you talk us through why that's the case?
Yeah, that's right, Jason. So they're not new. They've been around for quite some time, but they've recently taken on some more importance as the commissioner and ATO sort of tighten the leash on what's acceptable within the fund. One of the problems that they were seeing was that the same property values were being reported for multiple years in a row, indicating to them that perhaps this was not an area of concern for trustees. Now, one of the reasons that's an issue is because property values have changed significantly over the past few years. If you take a look at the residential market, all of the major capital cities, with the exception of Darwin, have actually recorded new all-time highs. The commercial market overall has also been resilient, led by the industrial sector, most notably due to a rise in e-commerce, which has caused the logistics network to expand and strengthen. Also, you've got retail recording the highest transaction volumes we've seen in the past decade. Now I don't know about you, Jason, but I personally like to go to the shop and try things on before I buy them. So a comeback for the brick and mortar stores is good news for investors and good news for shoppers as well. Not so much good news, though, for the office market, which is struggling to recover since the working from home arrangements have come into place. So to answer your question, Jason, the reason they're becoming more valuations becoming more in the spotlight is quite simply because the values of people's investments have changed and the values of their super funds have changed. And this has a considerable impact when it comes to things like financial planning. And for members in the retirement phase, considerations for their pension payments and their tax-free thresholds.
Now, a couple of things in there that you mentioned, it's really the three types of property classes, residential, commercial, and office. And there's different ways of valuing different types of properties, but there's also different valuation processes. So can you run through the valuation processes and where they might apply to those different asset classes?
Yeah, sure. So the first option is to obtain the sworn valuation. These are quite a formal and extensive document written by a certified practicing valuer. They're usually used for instances such as bank mortgages or family law settlements. They're quite extensive, so they take weeks and weeks. Usually cost somewhere between $1,000 and $4,000. These would be good for your much more higher assets, sort of into the millions and millions, that may be more difficult to approach from the other options. One of the other options is the real estate agent appraisal. You used to be able to get a real estate agent letter, just a simple one-page letter. This does not cut it anymore. It will have to be in the form of an appraisal and have at least 3 comparable sales. This could be a good option for the residential market. If you have a good relationship with your agent, they might be happy to write this one for you. Otherwise, if you have the time and inclination as a trustee, you can also have a go at this yourself. But if you're going to elect this option, I'd recommend having a good research of the rules and regulations before doing so. Another option, which is sort of a less common option, and the option that we would fall under, is to obtain a independent valuation report from a qualified independent valuer. Our service in particular is targeted and tailored specifically for trustees that their accountants can also use. And then finally, you've got the CoreLogic sort of automated valuation models, only available for the residential market.
Okay. Now, in regards to those, valuations are typically seen as an end of a financial year thing. And that's when most trustees would interact with them. I know the requirement is that it used to be, people thought it was 3 years. The ATO recently come out and said, no, it's every year, it's an annual thing. But are there times during the life or during a financial year where you might want to seek a valuation for the fund?
Yeah, absolutely. There are, Jason. One of the times is when you're transferring your property into your fund, you'll need to do so at market value. And also, if you're transferring the property out of your fund, you'll also need to be able to prove that you've done so at market value. So you will need to obtain a valuation report. Now, it's very important these values are done correctly. Otherwise, it could skew your financial planning and have long-term potentially harmful implications. Couple of the other scenarios is if you're selling or transacting the property to a related party of your fund, or also if you've say inherited a property and sold it, you'll need to provide a valuation report at the date that you were deemed to acquire the asset.
Now, one of the things I've been chatting with a few people about recently is separations and divorce. And so, would that be a trigger event such as moving an asset out during the financial years? You mentioned moving it out to either related party. I guess a former spouse is still technically a related party. Things like that, or possibly a death in the family. Would all those be triggers where you'd need to get a valuation as well?
Yes, they are also triggers as well, Jason. Yes, absolutely.
Now, when that happens, do you need to get the same type of valuation every each year or every time you get valued? Is
The answer is no. There's no rule committing you to one certain type of valuation or another. Uh, Ultimately, this whole valuation requirement is just another cost for trustees. So I certainly wouldn't be looking to go and spend thousands of dollars each year on, say, a sworn valuation, because, I mean, as you could imagine, over 20 to 30 plus years, that's going to add up to fifty to $100,000. So I personally would be going for whatever's going to be easiest and the most affordable for you. And the feedback that we're receiving from the community and our clients is that is what our reports are able to offer. Otherwise, if you find yourself with a bit more time on your hands, perhaps you've recently retired, you might even like to have a go at doing these reports yourself. But like I said, if you are going to go for this option, just make sure that you do the proper research before doing so.
how long can you rely on the data provided for you in evaluation? Is it good for a year? Say for instance, we'll go with that scenario. You got one at the end of financial year, 6 months into the new financial year, you'd like to maybe sell the asset or move it out of the fund. Can you still rely on that valuation from 6 months earlier?
Well, look, Jason, property prices are constantly fluctuating, so it's important to regularly update your valuation so that the value that you have in your fund is reflective of the current market conditions. If you're going to transfer the property out of a fund, or like the scenarios you've just mentioned, then you will need to provide a new valuation for the current date. When we're talking about annual requirement, the short answer is it's become an annual requirement. Originally, it was once every 3 years, but that is a thing of the past now. That's gone. There's been a transition towards it becoming an annual requirement.
Are there other things you're seeing that trustees are maybe getting wrong or making mistakes when they're thinking about or getting a valuation?
Yeah, look, there are a couple of other mistakes we're seeing, Jason. Although I don't like to use the word mistakes, because after all, trustees have never had any official training. The ATO is sort of changing things and expecting us to pick up the pieces. One of the things that we're seeing a lot is that trustees are still expecting that their simple one-page real estate agent letter is going to cut it. It's not. They no longer have the sufficient market evidence to substantiate the value that they've provided. So if you are going to get a real estate agent appraisal, just make sure that it's got at least 3 comparable sales and some market evidence inside. Another key important area for the trustees that some mistakes are being made is the date. So it has to be reported at the 30th of June each year. So the commissioner's sort of said, in regard to the 3-year requirement, he said now that his opinion is that trustees need to be following the rules, and the rules state that assets need to be valued at the 30th of June each year. So what that means, if you're writing a valuation report or you're ordering a report for the previous financial year, you'll need to order it or prepare it as of the 30th of June 2024. And same once we move beyond 30th of June this year, you'll need to make sure that it's dated as of the 30th of June 2025, and so on. And then finally, or commercial property that's leased to a related party of your fund, you're also going to need to have some sort of documentation to prove that the rental income that you're receiving off the property is in fact at a fair market value. So that could be in the form of a rental appraisal. And that's also something that we're able to assist with.
Okay, some good tips in there. Very useful to know because as we've mentioned, this is an area of more and more concern. And I think if Div 296 does come in, the last thing you want to have is a property that's overvalued and pushes you into that $3 million barrier, and then you end up paying excess tax. Really appreciate your time today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jason. Thanks, everyone.